Good day, learners. You are welcome to another study session in our class, Echo 112. Last week, we had a discussion on the public sector and their role in the national development and national economy. We itemized their roles basically in 4 portions: the allocative function, distributive function, the stabilization function, as well as the regulatory function. Today we are moving on to the 4th session of the class, discussing macroeconomic policies. What are macroeconomic policies? They are statements or procedures of the government set aside to achieve. The objective of macroeconomic policy is to maximize the level of national income, providing economic growth, to raise the standard of living of the people, as well as to improve their living conditions. What are policies? Policies are government statements, government regulatory documents that are designed to achieve a number of goals. Macroeconomic policies are instruments or tools used by the policymakers in controlling and monitoring, as well as managing stability in the economy. These policies are usually formulated by government through its agencies, organizations, parastatals, and ministries. These policies include the tax policy, the monetary policy, the fiscal policy, the external policy, the price policy, and the rest. Among all these various policies, there are 2 of them that are most prominent and most important, and that is the monetary policy and the fiscal policy. At the end of this class, it is expected that you should be able to give the meaning of macroeconomic policy, objective of macroeconomic policy, the macroeconomic policy tools, the possible conflicts on macroeconomic goals, and also the policy designed to correct macroeconomic policies. What are the objectives of macroeconomic policy? The basic objective of every economic policy are to achieve the macroeconomic goals. These macroeconomic goals are numerous, but the 5 essential ones are: 1. To attain high level of employment if full level of employment is not achievable. 2. To attain price stability in the economy. 3. To promote economic growth and development. 4. To redistribute income between the rich and the poor. And 5. To maintain external balance of trade, to ensure that the external sector and the balance of trade and payments is in favor of the economy. So these are the main objective of every policy tools that the government introduces from time to time. Let's take them one by one. Economic growth. Economic growth has to do with a sustained increase in the general price level. For every economy to attain this goal, there must be proper coordination of the policies to ensure that output is increasing steadfastly over time. And this also have direct implication on the welfare of the people. Employment generation. It is the role of the government to ensure that not only human resources are fully employed, the natural resources must be fully engaged and utilized. So also the environmental resources and all other forms of resources. It is therefore an important macroeconomic goal for every economy to ensure that resources are fully utilized, manpower are fully managed. It is impossible not to have unemployment at all, but even if there be unemployment, the unemployment rate must be a single-digit unemployment rate, not double digits, not anything up to 10%. Unlike some countries where they have even unemployment rate up to 20%, 30%, it is not desirable And it is not an intention of any macroeconomic goal to have such large number of people not getting employment and being gainfully employed. Income redistribution. The gap between the rich and the poor is not supposed to be wide. It is the role of the government to ensure that much taxes are paid by the rich and less by the poor. And the resources gathered from the rich man's salary is used to provide basic amenities and services for the poor and their children so that they don't continue to wallow in abject poverty. So it is the role of the government, since the nature cannot redistribute income, wealth, and resources equally, it is then the role of the government to ensure a redistribution of these resources and ensure that the poor don't grow poorer and the rich don't widen the gap between them and the poor. Balance of payments. Governments all over the world trade with other countries in the world, and payments are made, so also they receive income. There is always a statement of account showing the interaction between what you pay and what you receive. Every government or every macroeconomic policy is designed to ensure that government does not pay more than you receive. Because when you pay more than you receive, you are deficit and you'll be paying debt, just like a businessman that is running in loss and paying back interest, a debt with interest. So it is the role of the government to ensure that appropriate trade policies are executed to ensure that the balance of payment position is favorable. Price stability. Prices are always very sticky downward but flexible upward. Government cannot fold its arms, allowing the cost of operation to keep on increasing and allow prices to keep on moving on. So it is the role of the government to ensure that there is appropriate check and balance on the pricing of goods and services in the economy, so that prices does not go beyond what an ordinary person can afford, especially of basic goods and services, and such that the firms don't take advantage to exploit the poor in the economy by increasing the price arbitrarily. So government has a responsibility in terms of price stability to keep the value of money stable. Once the value of money is kept stable, prices of goods and services will be kept under check. Inflation will be under control. Well, what are the possible conflicts on macroeconomic goals? All these goals have the tendency of conflicting with one another. A government may be trying to achieve high employment opportunity and in the process lose focus on price stability. Because the government is trying to say people should get employed and be working, and then may forget to keep check and balances on the pricing of goods and services that people are producing. And this could be conflicting and will not have a goal to be achieved. Government may also be pursuing economic growth at the expense of not being watchful about the external balance in terms of balance of payments. So all this occur that government has to regulate and put all of them under check and balances. Inflation and unemployment could be very contradictory as well. If you want to reduce unemployment, sometimes you may be given room for cost push inflation. So all these goals of government activities could be conflicting. Economic growth could also conflict with inflation. An overheating economy may suffer an accelerating inflation, which then has some negative effect on the performance of the business activities. Economic growth may also work against balance of payments. When economic growth is led by consumer spending, it may lead to cost deficits, in the current account. Because you want the economy to grow, you want people to consume goods and services and improve their social life and their standard of living, and they keep on importing these goods at the expense of the local industry that can produce them. You put pressure on the local industry, such local industry will shut down if they cannot compete with the foreign companies or industries. And what do you see? You see people getting unemployed, which is what you actually wanted to avoid. So these are some of the conflicts that may occur in the course of trying to achieve the macroeconomic goals. The two basic macroeconomic policy goals are the fiscal policy, which has to do with the regulation of taxation and expenditure in order to achieve all these goals. Government knows when to tax, how to tax, who to tax. And government know when to make some expenditure to spend money on road, when to spend money on schooling, when to spend money on other basic things. So the combination of taxation and expenditure gives the fiscal policy tools. The monetary policy tools, as I said, is trying to regulate the money supply, credit creation in the economy. There must not be too much money in circulation, and there must not be too less. The money should not be too less to make the economy to come to full utilization of resources and employment opportunity. So these are the two basic roles of the policies that government has to always put in place. We have talked about the objective of macroeconomic goals, macroeconomic policy. We have talked about the objective, economic growth, employment generation, income distribution, balance of payment, and price stability. We have also talked about the possible conflicts on macroeconomic goals, which makes it impossible sometimes to achieve two simultaneously. But at the same time, we still have to make a balance between one and the other to see that the one does not adversely affect the other. It is the role of the government to ensure that this balance is taken into consideration, and that in taking this balance into consideration, they are not only setting policy and regulations to achieve them, they must be able to maintain them and make them stabilized over time. For instance, when you talk about income inequality, that is, income is not being equal among the economic agents, the government has to come with policy like raising income tax, like reducing political rents, like making progressive taxation, and like providing subsidy on essential goods. This will enable to have a better gap between the rich and the poor. If there are rising inflation rates, government has to control aggregate demand. Government has to raise indirect taxes, and government has to introduce tightening monetary policy measures, which will make the central bank to introduce higher interest rates or to reduce the consumer and investment spending. If there is problem with unemployment, of course, taxation has to reduce because people don't get job. Education and training must be focused on the one that we acquire skills and knowledge that will provide job for the people. An employment subsidy must be given to those who are currently unemployed, and there must be adequate improved labor market flexibility to ensure that labor is able to move from area that is not required or needed to area that is required or needed. These are some of the policy tools. So when an economy is having an issue on inflation, the way and manner that the policy that will be introduced is different from when that same economy is having issue with balance of payment crisis. But in trying to address all these issues, government must ensure that there is a balance among the various macroeconomic goals. Thanks you for listening.